right. I'm actually so excited to have you on.
Me too.
Yes.
I'm a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie.
Shut up.
I'm used to asking the questions, not being asked the questions.
Okay.
So this is like,
That's so true,
reverse.
because journalist, news anchor, like, you ask the questions.
Yeah.
That is so funny. I would have never thought that. But you're like, okay, I'm nervous because you're asking me questions.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. I swear. I just really want to get to know, like, your background and how you're getting to where you're going, and then, like, what we can look forward to. So we'll start with that, though. I always ask the question, how are you doing? Just because a lot of people are, like, running through life and we never really check in with ourselves. So how are you?
I'm good. I am at a point in life where I'm just, like, figuring things out.
Yeah.
I feel like we're always just figuring it out.
Right.
So I have a lot of exciting things, a lot of different projects that I'm working on. So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to keep my head above water and, like,
figure it out. Yeah, but, like, I think figuring it out when you're, like, 20 rather than now is completely different.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a difference between that for you?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, there wasn't as much risk.
Yeah.
Because you have so much time. And for me, I am already established in a TV career, and now I'm trying to almost start over and shift.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a lot more at stake, I would say, doing it this, I guess, far into. Yeah. But at the same time, because I have so much knowledge and experience, it kind of informs the things that I'm doing. Yeah. So I mean, is it ever really a perfect time?
No!
Probably not.
It's
so,
not.
you know.
There's never a perfect time. So actually, let's get into that. Tell me more about your news career. And let me just tell you, I stalked you a little bit before this because I'm like, I just need to see all the things, do all the research. Yeah. And your news anchor voice
is so
cute. So at the end of this, you'll have to give us a little...
Okay.
A little tea, maybe. You know, like, turn on the news anchor voice. Yes, because I love it. So, tell me how you first, like, got in, like, you know, started school, how you decided that you even wanted to get into journalism in the first place, and then how it just, like, directed into being a news anchor. Because did you start as a sports news?
Yeah, so I wanted to do sports. I've been an athlete pretty much. Well, I would say all my life, but basically I started playing basketball freshman year of high school.
Okay.
So before then I wasn't really into sports. I just went to school. And so, going into high school, I wanted to just try a bunch of new things. And so I joined Spanish club. I joined the basketball team. We'll try it out. Yeah. And I didn't make it. No. My dad was like, I really don't think you should do that. He was so like, no, we're not doing that. But I think he was more so trying to protect me from my feelings being hurt because like I was not good.
Yeah.
But I was delusional. Like, girl, I think the team had won state back to back to back. Like they were good. They were good.
They were good.
And so here I am, like, oh, I'm just gonna go try out, like whatever. But I made the team. I've always been naturally athletic.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
Yeah, I made the team. I joined photography club. I joined yearbook, MQU, which is like our monthly, quarterly update. So we would have like mini newscasts every quarter. So I've always done things that were creative or storytelling. I never thought that was a career that I could do. I was just like, oh, these are fun classes at school that I enjoy. Yeah. So. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs. My dad owns a construction company. Nice. My mom, she has a hair salon, and now she's by herself in her own. My dad turned our old house into a hair salon for her during the pandemic. Aww. But before that, she had an actual salon downtown, and so she would like booth rent chairs to different stylists around the city. Nice.
So you've got that entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's always been something that I've been around and seen. My grandpa has had a hat store, like the longest standing hat store in Kansas City. People travel all over the world to go shop at his store. Yeah.
What is it
He
called?
Doesn't have, it's called The Missing Piece.
Oh.
Yeah, he doesn't have social media. He doesn't have a website. Like people literally come. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
From word of mouth.
So, yeah, basically. And
that's beautiful. Good grandpa.
Yeah, a lot of you know, like football players, celebrities, literally it's just like a thing.
Wow.
But yeah, so I really want to get him on the digital marketing thing, and he's just like, no. He still has one of those old cash registers that you know, the button is so funny. Yeah.
But that's so cute because he's still like up and running and just doing his thing.
Yeah.
Just from word of mouth.
Yeah.
I feel like that gives it a very exclusive, you know what I mean?
It's special. It's special. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't hear about this on the internet.
Exactly.
You got to figure it out from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you have been on the entrepreneur track from the day you were born.
Basically, yeah, I've seen what it takes. You know, my parents, they did not come from money. Right. I don't come from money.
Right.
And so going kind of back to the basketball thing, that was my ticket to college.
Right.
That's what paid for me to go to college. I didn't take basketball really serious until the summer before my junior year of high school. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm making good grades, but that's not enough. If I want to get like college paid for, I'm going to really try to use basketball. So
okay, so let me just go back really quick because I actually feel tingly about this in my skin. You started basketball in high school.
Yeah.
Do you know, because I come from an athletic background too, not myself, but my little brothers have played basketball since they were like 2.
Yeah.
And they were able, could have gone to college for basketball, decided not to, but a lot of people start for forever. Like they start when they're children playing basketball. Like, I don't know if you know, but Texas, obviously, they're like, you know, feeding up their kids, like getting them ready to go to play college basketball at like 4.
Yeah.
And you came in high school and you were like, I'm taking this
Girl,
serious
I was
now.
delusional.
Okay, so delusional is the key to life.
Basically,
and that's just a tidbit right at the beginning because you said high school, I'm coming for you, and then even junior year noticing like, this is my ticket. Like, this is the way that I have to go in order to get what I need done at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So junior year, you started taking basketball serious. And then give me kind of what happened after that.
So I joined an AAU team, played all summer long, basically till I graduated. And I started getting college letters coming in because, you know, club ball, a lot of college coaches go and watch. Yeah. So, I got a few letters. I went to Lindenwood, which was a super small, like D3 school somewhere. I don't even remember where it was. Yeah. I did visit Mizzou, but I knew I wasn't going to play basketball there. But it is a journalism, like one of the best in the country for journalism. So I did visit campus. I visited KU, and then I visited Denison. Okay. And Denison is in Ohio. It's about 30 minutes north of Columbus. And so when I visited, I met the team. I met the coach. And I don't know, I just had this feeling when I left that that's the place that I want to be at. Yeah. So that's where I ended up. Nice. And I played basketball all 4 years. College was a really, really good time. It was obviously the first time being away from my parents, my family. We're all really close-knit. Yeah. And so it definitely helped me grow up in a lot of ways because I'm by myself. Yeah. I have no one. I knew no one. Like, no one at all. Yeah. And then, you're just kind of figuring it out. Being an adult, making different decisions. Like, you can drink, you cannot drink. Yes. Like, you know, you can do all of these different things and make all these different decisions for yourself. And so I think for me, that was me trying to figure out growing up.
Right, by yourself, basically, and just being an adult, which is honestly wild. So tell me where you're from one more time.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yeah. And then you were all the way in
Ohio.
Yeah. And that's very far.
It is far. It's still technically Midwest. Yeah. I think it was an 8-hour drive. So, but that's far. You know, my parents can't just come down the street and help. You. Yeah, they're gonna have to get on a flight.
There's nobody to come help. So that's interesting, and I feel like very brave of you, obviously, to just get up and go. I feel like that's a tip point right there because a lot of people just won't get up and go, and you decided to do that at a very young age. So take me through your college because you said you started a lot of classes when you were in high school, which I'm a believer that a lot of us have what we already love inside of us and we start doing it because just like you in high school, I was in art classes, I was in art club, I was in DECA, I was in photography classes. So that was just something that I was drawn to already. And I feel like a lot of us are drawn to it, but we just always go the opposite way for some reason. So you were already drawn to it. Did you know going into college, like, I'm going to do journalism?
No.
Because
no.
Here's the thing too, and you're saying no, which I think is so funny, but like we don't even know, like before I got to college I had no idea what journalism was,
right?
Or like, even like I went for strategic communications and marketing. I had no idea that was a thing, and I didn't know until like sophomore year. Somebody was like, oh yeah, I love my degree, like we do a lot of news and like we go out on campus and we like interview people, and I was like, I love to talk. Like, how can I get into this? And so that's how I found it. But how did you come across the path of getting into journalism just in general?
So when I got to college, I thought I was going to be a dentist.
Okay.
So I love teeth.
Yeah. They're very great.
Thank you.
Give us a cute smile.
Yeah, so I thought I was going to be a dentist, took a couple classes, and I was like, absolutely not. Don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So I had to drop all of my classes, and then I started taking, I think, communications. Yeah. I took like an econ class and just a bunch of classes that were more geared toward arts.
Right.
And I don't think it was until my junior or senior year that I was like, okay, I'm going to be a news reporter, and I want to be a sideline sports reporter. Yeah.
Okay, what gave you that?
Because I played basketball, and I joined our Husky News network, and so I was doing color commentary for volleyball games. Okay. So I was so bad. I was so bad, but that was my first taste of anything TV broadcast related.
Yeah.
And then my teammates were like, oh my gosh, I could totally see you doing that.
Yeah.
Like, you are so good, even though I was so bad.
Right. But even at that time, I think we always think, oh my God, that's, ugh. Like it gives you the ick. But then you're like, at that time, I probably was so good to other people. So then I started being like, okay, maybe I can do this. Right.
And I became obsessed with Robin Roberts. I read all of her books about how she got into sports media. Mm-hmm. She was doing radio at first. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to be like Robin Roberts. And so she kind of became my inspo.
Yeah.
And I went to grad school because I really didn't know how to get into TV.
Right.
And even though I was a part of all of these different clubs and things that were still journalism based, I had no experience, and I didn't know anybody who, did what I wanted to do personally. So I was like, I'm going to go and get a master's degree, and then I'll figure it out after that. It's literally always just been figuring it out, though.
Yeah.
So I did not have a plan. I enrolled at the College of Arts, Media, and Design at Northeastern. Mm-hmm. It's in Boston. And I did not have a plan. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know how I was going to make money. I just knew that that's where I was going to school. And my dad was like, again, back to the basketball thing, kind of fearful.
Yeah.
But so discouraging, and he was like, how are you going to live? How are you going to get there? Just all of these things. And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so one day my mom was at work, and she got a phone call, and someone was asking around. I don't know. We apparently had family in Boston. Mm-hmm. I had never met them before. I didn't even know them. Mm-hmm. And they offered to let me stay with them while I was in school.
Really?
Yeah. And
so who ended up being the family that was there?
So it was my mom's dad's cousin.
Okay, wow.
So I call her Aunt Veronica, but she's really a cousin.
Yeah.
And so her and her husband Pat, she had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and they were all older and like moved out. Yeah. And so they had like a 3 or 4 bedroom house that was empty, and they were a lot older, so they were just like, she can come stay with us. Yeah. So it was actually in Norfolk. It was like a 45-minute drive from the city. So I was going back and forth or like taking the train. But I mean,
that's wild.
That's literally what I had to do to kind of get myself
where you were going.
You know, yeah.
That's wild. When you start to like hear people's stories and where they come from, like how did it happen, you start to be like, you start to look at people a lot differently. Like obviously I've met you in person, and then I've seen you on social media, but actually hearing the story of like how you're getting to where you're going. And a lot of people have this thing where they're like, oh, she just, you know, overnight.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And the more that I talk to people, the more I'm like, it takes so much that people don't understand. And this is actually why I do this, is that people can see other people that they may look up to and be like, oh, okay, this is what happened. This is what they did. And so here's what I want to go back to. Who did you say your person was that you were like, I'm going to be just like her? She's
Robin Roberts.
Robin Roberts. Okay, I'll have to look more into her. But even though you didn't have someone that you knew that was doing what you wanted to do, you found someone that was doing it. And you said you read her books and things like that. What did you learn from those times where you're like reading her books and doing those things? Did you like follow guidelines of like the things that she was saying, or just taking inspiration from what it was that she was doing?
I wouldn't say necessarily that I followed guidelines, because I think when you're getting into TV, everyone has a different journey. Some people start as producers. Right. Some people just get lucky and they get that on-air job. Everyone has such a different journey. If you talk to different journalists who are on TV, I mean, we all have completely different stories. So for me, it was more so, I think the inspiration that I got from her is just to go for it. Yeah. You know, like, I did not come from, I was a first generation college student. I don't come from money. I don't have, you know, a lot of these opportunities. You kind of have to create them yourself. Yeah. And so just her tenacity and how she would do any and everything just to get her foot in the door and work crazy hours, like, that's kind of what I prepared myself for, or I guess put like that mindset of it's going to be really hard, and these are things I'm going to have to do.
And so by any means necessary, like anything I have to do to get where I want to be is exactly what I'm going to do. And I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, these days are like, it seems like it's so easy, but it's just really not. That's what I'm trying to get across. It's just not easy. And so when you went into, this is another thing I wanted to hit on. So a lot of times we like look for other people to encourage us, right? Like, but your dad on one side, I'm sure he's very encouraging and very, like, obviously he loves you. He wants the best for you. But I'm kind of the same way. Like, my mom is very worrisome, so she's always like, even when I moved here, she was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? But my dad is very entrepreneurial, so he's like, just do it. Like, if you fall, if you fail, get up again, and fail again, because it's just going to teach you what you need to know. And so how did you get past the, you know, because when you're young and your dad's like, don't do this, you're kind of like, should I do this? How did you get past that kind of wall of, let me just move through this and keep going? Because I can see something for myself, and there's certain things I need to do to get it. Right. You know what I mean?
I think my mom has always been super supportive, and not that my dad's not supportive. He is supportive, but for him it was always coming from a place of fear. Yeah, right. I mean, even he had never left Kansas City. Yeah. So, I mean, when I tell you my family, we all live within a 15-mile radius of each other. Yeah. It's super small. We're super tight-knit. So, me leaving to college to play basketball was a big deal. But then to leave to Boston and actually, like, live out there with no support or financial support, that was, you know, I mean, that can be scary for a dad, especially for a daughter. Yeah. So, and I mean, he had never been to Boston before. Right. I had never been to Boston. I just was like, I'm going to pick somewhere on the map, find this school, and that's where I'm going to go. Yeah, yeah. So, I don't know. I've always just kind of, I don't know why I've never really been a fearful person. Yeah. I always just kind of, if I feel like I can do something and I think about it, I'm going to just try it and do it and figure it out. So, I don't know why or where that comes from, honestly.
It's just a tenacity.
It's just like you. Yeah, I don't know. I just always just did it.
Nice.
You know,
just
I don't know.
It. Yeah.
So
let me ask you this. Is there a time in your life, before we get on to the next thing, because I'm going to continue asking questions, but has there been a time in your life where you're like, oh, I failed at this, and you felt like, man, this is like really, like this cut deep, you know, like, but let me keep going.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we'll start something and then we're like, like I didn't succeed, so let me just stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the TV business, especially starting out, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And for me, when I graduated grad school and got my first job in Omaha, Nebraska, it's not very diverse.
Yeah.
The newsroom that I was working for wasn't very diverse, and I was the youngest person that they had hired at that point in time.
Interesting.
And so, actually, the woman who hired me was retiring the week I started.
Wow.
So then someone else took over, and I always had that feeling of like, I know I don't know like everything,
right,
and I'm trying to figure it out, and it was really, really hard because I'm in a new city. I have this brand new job where I want to do a good job, but I know I'm not good.
Right.
It's my first job.
Yeah.
But then you also have people treating you like you're not good or you're not worthy. So it's like, and then add in like, you know, discrimination and like like that part for the city as itself, like in and of itself, like it was really tough.
Yeah.
And so, the first few stories that I did, I'm like, you know, getting feedback.
Right.
And for me, I'm used to excelling in things that I do and getting straight A's, even like with basketball, like, sure, I was never the best player, but that is still something that I can say that I excelled at in ways, you know, to get me to certain places, you know.
Yeah.
And so, when I got there, I genuinely, there were many calls home where I was like, I don't think I'm for this. Like, this isn't for me. I need to find something else.
Right.
But I'm really happy that I stuck with it, for sure.
Pushed through. Yeah, because I can only imagine. I come from Oklahoma, so we are diverser now, more diversified. But I mean, even the college that I went to, predominantly white. Like, everything I did was predominantly white, so I always stuck out like a sore thumb. And so I think diversifying those areas and making sure my voice was heard was something that was really difficult. And I can only imagine in Nebraska how that would be. And then on top of that, like being on TV, recording, like making sure your presence is known.
People literally comment on your appearance, how you speak. I mean, it's everything. They made me cut my hair off.
Did they?
Yeah, my hair was so long.
Yeah.
And I went in one day. We had a style consultant come in. And normally with style consultants, it's a suggestion.
Right.
But they took that suggestion and was like, no, you need to cut your hair off because I look so young. But I'm like, well, obviously, you just hired me off right out of college.
I'm young.
So, they made me cut my hair. And that was really, I remember like bawling my eyes out. My mom came, she drove to Omaha and cut my hair for me. And I was in tears.
Oh my God, yeah. So let's kind of touch on that too, because I think that learning, you didn't come from a background of not loving your hair, loving yourself, right? Because your mom's a hairstylist, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. You loved your hair, or did you have, because I know for me, my hair is really curly. So like going to predominantly white schools, I always had an issue with my curl pattern.
Yeah.
I would go to class and people were like, oh my God, your hair is so curly. Like, can I touch it? Can I, you know what I'm saying? They're just really fascinated with it, but not knowing the fascination then and being who I am now, like they were just curious because it was new to them, not because it was wrong. But back then I took it as like, oh, this is wrong. Like I got to straighten my hair. Like I need to put in extra hair, whatever the case may have been. Did you go through that when you were in Nebraska?
I did. I went through that pretty much, honestly, all my life because, so I am half black, half Mexican, and I grew up in a household that was, I mean, my stepdad's Mexican, my mom's Mexican, my younger sisters are Mexican, so that was my household.
Yeah.
And then my biological dad, that side of my family, they live in Atlanta. Oh. So I was around my stepdad and my mom's family most of my life. So I'm culture, exactly. And so I did grow up feeling like out of place or that I didn't really belong. And then going to school, I've always gone to predominantly white schools. And so there definitely was some struggle with my identity and finding who I was, like, you know, having to choose between am I Mexican or am I black? Like, So I definitely went through those struggles, and even today I still have kind of
we're like questioning
those questions, back and forth. I went to a networking event a couple weeks ago, and it was mostly like Latina business owners here in Dallas. And I was like, man, like I kind of feel out of place in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was such a weird feeling.
Yeah.
But I guess it's always the struggle of, you know, you're not Latina enough in these spaces, but then you're not black enough in these spaces. Yeah. And so it's like,
where do I
like fit? If I can't go to Bella Noche, where can I go? You know, like,
literally.
So it's like,
yeah, and that makes sense. I think that in a lot of spaces, because again, I grew up in predominantly white areas, so people would always call me the Oreo because I speak a certain way, my hair is a certain way, or they'd be like, oh, you have to be mixed because your hair is curly.
Yeah.
Or you have to be mixed because your skin tone, like you're not. And I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so it is, I think, a constant journey to be like, this is what I am. And if you're mixed, like I'm both of these things, and this is just who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's important to just know that that's okay. Like, you fit, you're in a gray area, and it's your area though, and people are, you know, in that same area with you trying to figure out like, where do I fit?
It can be difficult, especially when you're in the TV business. Like for me, I do feel like I have a pressure and a responsibility to highlight and showcase my community. And for me, I'm highlighting two communities that have their own struggles and things that they deal with. And so it can be, you know, a really difficult burden to talk about these things on air. And then, I mean, you just get a lot of feedback like, oh, you're talking too much about, like, you only talk about black businesses, or you don't talk enough about this thing. And it's like, I'm only human, you know, and there's so much other red tape that goes, you know, into it too. You know, getting things approved, and some things aren't up to me. So, there's a lot of different, you know, nuances that people don't really understand about,
And I think that you don't even have to speak on other people understanding what goes on behind the scenes of the bigger things, because you can only do so much, you know what I mean? But you personally, as an individual, you also speak towards all the businesses, and you help all the businesses, and that's just things that people don't know. So to talk about that, you're also an Emmy Award winner.
Yes.
And that specifically came from diversity and inclusion in the newsroom space. And I can cut this part out, but tell me, are you able to talk about that? Okay, perfect. So tell me kind of the story that allowed you to get that award.
Sure.
And kind of what the behind the scenes of how that occurred happened.
So when I moved to Waco, that was my very first TV anchor job. So before I was a news reporter, and then I became an anchor, and those are two very different positions. And so basically, the anchor is like the point guard, that's like the quarterback of the newsroom. And so that's where I really found my voice, and I found confidence doing things that I want to do, and not things that an assignment editor told me to cover. And so, I was there for 2 years, and I had an opportunity to do something different for Black History Month. We didn't really have a diverse newsroom, but we had one of the most diverse newsrooms in the city. And so I went to my news director, and I asked her, I was like, hey, I know, you know, Todd and I are the main anchors, but I think that we have an opportunity to really do something special with our weekend anchors who were both Black.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could all three co-host a Black History Month special together, I think that would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
So she was like, yeah, go for it, but you have to basically do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And so, I shot 2 of my own packages. I worked with the anchors on kind of some of the stories that we should be covering, because they were also in different parts of the city too. Like one was in Killeen, the other one was in Bryan College Station, I think, like by Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And so we also had a unique ability to cover Black history in all of these other different pockets of the city too. And we put our heart and soul into this special. It was an hour long, I think, or maybe 30 minutes.
I feel like it was an hour. I don't know where.
I can't remember, but it was And so, they gave us free reign. There was really nothing that was off the table. We talked about lynchings. Wow. We talked about the Black church and what that means. Yeah. We talked about police brutality, George Floyd. I mean, we touched on so many different topics. Yeah. And at that time, the diversity, equity, and inclusion category was new for the Emmys, for the Lone Star Emmys. And so we just submitted it. Yeah. And I found out we won literally I was running late, and I was in the car watching from my phone, and I found out we won on the way there. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
It was really cool.
Well deserved, especially after watching bits and pieces of it. It's like you never really see things come together, especially that are just like so necessary. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And Black history, as far as everything that's occurred, especially over all the years. Yeah. But I feel like 2020, 2021, it's like those are the years we seen stuff like real up close and personal. Yeah. Where it was like
in your face.
So to speak on it just in such a public manner and with such confidence, and really like gather up other people in that area to do it and come up with the ideas. And like you said, you got free reign to do it, but it was just like having the audacity. I love the word audacity because it's just like a lot of people don't have the audacity, but having the audacity to ask, like, can we do this? I think it would be really beneficial for us to do this is wild, and I commend you for that.
It definitely, we did get a lot of feedback. That was something that I was kind of afraid of, was hearing how the public felt about it when they watched it, but we actually got a lot of really good feedback, and it was kind of rewarding to hear people be like, I'm not a Black person, I'm a white person, but I just want to tell you, like, I had no idea these things happen in Waco, and I've lived here my whole life.
In a space where it's still predominantly white, you understand that people just don't really know. Mm-hmm. And I think for you to have done something that educates people so publicly, again, it's just like wild, because like you said, you're getting that feedback like, we had no idea. Mm-hmm. But now that they do have an idea, maybe it's something that they're like, it's a seed, that they're thinking about, and to not just continue being the way that they are. You know what I mean? Or not inclusive, or not diversifying even in their area. Yeah. So from that, after winning the award, actually let me go back. So I want to talk about how you got your first job being a producer, or what did you say your role was? I'm sorry.
So I was a news reporter. My first job was a news reporter, but in grad school, my first TV job was an associate producer. So I wasn't even a producer. I was like under the producer. Right. So, when I moved to Boston, I was working like all kinds of jobs. Yeah. I worked at Banana Republic. I worked on campus. And then I got the TV job, but it came because when I was working at Banana Republic, there was a girl there who was working as a news writer at the station that I ended up getting a job for. And, I'm just talking to her, telling her, just girls, like little talk, like, what do you do? What are you in school for? Whatever. Mm-hmm. And she just so happened to be leaving because she got an anchor job in Maine. Wow. And so she was like, you can probably just take my job. Yeah. So send me your resume and I'll share it. Girl, 2 weeks later, they called me and they were like, hey, can you, work these days these mornings, whatever.
Yeah.
I was going into like 2 a.m.
Yeah. I think
It
that's
was
another
tough.
thing that people don't get. Being anything in news, like whether you're whatever
It's nonstop.
It's nonstop, and they can call you at whatever time, and because news is always happening.
Yeah.
That news is always happening,
Yeah.
right? So, what were your hours like? Like, what did it look like? What did every day look like? Obviously different.
Yeah.
But what did that look like for you?
So my classes were at nighttime.
Yeah.
I think my earliest class started at maybe like 4 or 5 o'clock and went until 8. So,
Wow.
and I didn't have class every single day.
Right.
So when I was working at the news station, I normally was working on the days that I either didn't have class or in a way that I could like stagger it. So I wasn't going back and forth from Norfolk to Boston.
Yeah.
So, I would literally go in at 2 a.m., go to class or go to work, get off at 10 a.m. And then if I happen to have class that day, I would just go to campus and like hang out until I had class and then go home. So it was like an all day thing.
Yeah.
But I, if I remember correctly, I worked like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or something like that. I only worked 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then the other days, Banana Republic. I mean, sometimes I would go into work at the station and then leave, go work at Banana Republic, and then go home. Like, I mean, it was just different. It just depended on, when they needed me and what things. But yeah, long days.
I couldn't imagine doing that now, like at the age that I am.
Oh, no.
But back then, baby.
I'm tired, girl.
Yeah.
Like, when is lunch?
Tired.
I have
For
to,
real?
I need a nap.
And I need a nap right after lunch. Like, I can't just eat lunch.
No.
And then I Yeah. So I definitely get that. So after you went, I'm just trying to get the timeline of your life down in my head.
Yeah.
So after you went and you did your first news job, do you feel like, okay, so like in my mind, when we want something, I feel like, and we're just like thinking about it, I feel like the world puts it together for us and like puts somebody in our line to like achieve that goal.
Yeah.
So do you feel like if it wasn't for that conversation and just like speaking that conversation, do you feel like you would have gotten your foot? I mean, you would have at some point.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that was a driving factor in getting your foot in the door?
100%. Yeah.
'Cause
It
that's
definitely
wild.
opened a lot of doors for me, even getting that experience and then being able to say I worked in an actual newsroom.
Yeah.
So I know how a newsroom works, even though I can't shoot video or like write a package yet.
Yeah.
I know I have these skills.
Right.
I know, kind of the vibes of a newsroom
what's
because
going
it is
on.
crazy.
Is
I mean,
it?
people are running around. Yeah, it depends on like the day too, and if there's breaking news or not breaking news, but it can be
Crazy.
a little crazy. Yeah. So
I can imagine.
reporters like trying to get their meet deadline and get their stories and run out to get ready for their live shots and like it can be
hectic.
crazy during showtime. So that definitely gave me a lot of insight into what actually goes on behind the scenes.
Right.
So it did prepare me in some ways for because news is cutthroat. People are not the nicest. You'll meet a lot of people who are nice, but there's a lot of people who are not.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something that even basketball taught me is like, you just kind of let things roll off your shoulder. I've had coaches yell at me, say all kinds of crazy things, but I never really kind of took it to heart or took it personally.
That's nice.
So I tried,
like that.
I've always tried to just like show up, do my job, and just not really do too much.
Right,
just
like
kind of like
the feedback where it's at too.
Yeah.
I think this is even a thing for like you do great on social media, like you're doing well, you're trending, like you're up there. But I feel like sometimes people can give feedback. I don't know if you've had this, but we've been viral like once or twice.
Yeah.
And like when people comment on your stuff, for me at first, like 2 years ago, I'd be like, like why are they saying this?
Yeah.
But now I'm just like people are gonna talk their shit, you know what I'm saying? And you just have to like keep it pushing. So you feel like from basketball you learn like whatever feedback happens is what it is, and I'm just gonna keep it pushing.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, to a certain extent, because I am human.
Right.
So like some things do get to me. It depends on what it is. Like the thing that really triggers me is always the like race thing or like being like, oh, you're Mexican. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm both. Actually, like like that triggers me so bad. But but for the most part, I just I don't really. it's just noise.
Yeah, just let it roll.
Yeah. So
I feel like that's a big thing that people.
And it's always men.
It's always men.
Like
sometimes not gonna lie, like I work with a lot of women in the industry too, and the feedback from them, especially when I started just with like social media.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the feedback, and usually they're older women because they've been established in their business for a long time.
Yeah.
So what I know is good on social media, and what they know is good on social media is completely different. They're like 2 minutes. I'm like, right now it's 7 seconds.
Yeah.
So we know this.
Yeah.
And so just understanding the feedback, I used to take personal even 3 years ago, but as I progressed, and like I said, I played sports, but I didn't play, like, I played volleyball for a really long time, but I feel like volleyball and basketball are different. Basketball is very, like, you know what I'm saying, aggressive. Volleyball can get aggressive, but it's like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even the coaching is different, like, because you're mainly working with women and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so, for me, taking feedback was something I had to learn, like, oh, I just talking shit, you know?
Yeah.
They're saying whatever, and I'm moving forward with my life, like, you're probably saying that because something you got going on, not because me.
Yeah.
So I think learning that from basketball, just taking that with you, and even you like picking that up right now, you're like, oh, like basketball showed me a lot. Like, I can take a lot of tough things that people say and keep my life pushing. Because what else are we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But okay, so you got your first job in news, and then after that, you've had several news.
Yeah, I've had a lot of like so usually contracts last between like 2 and 3 years. And so my first job was in Boston as a news writer, and then when I graduated, I actually got my first TV reporting job before I graduated.
Okay, nice.
So I was pretty lucky in the sense that, actually, I don't like to say lucky, I was pretty blessed.
Yes.
In the sense that I was the only broadcast focused student in my program.
Oh, okay, nice.
So everyone was going for tech stuff like coding, building websites, print media, stuff like that. And so one of my professors at the time was a reporter, an investigative reporter for WCVB in Boston.
Yeah.
And so I got a ton of one-on-one time with him. Yeah. He helped me put my reel together and like really groomed me into like the person that I was going to be going into my first job.
Nice.
And so, he was the one who basically got me my first job. He sent my reel to all of his contacts, and then Omaha was where I ended up. And so, going there, I still wanted to do sports. Even all through grad school, I was like the sports anchor, sports reporter for our little newscast that we did. But I knew that I had to get my foot in the door some way, and just taking a TV job is going to give me the experience that I need regardless. So, I got my first TV job in Omaha. I was there for 2 years, and then literally same thing before. I never applied for a job. Any job I've gotten, I never applied for it. It's always been because I know someone who knows someone, or someone just being kind, and they're like, hey, I'm going to pull your hand and bring you here. And so that's kind of what happened with Waco. I wanted to still do sports. My producer in Omaha, I went to him and I was like, my contract's ending. I know I'm not going to resign here. Yeah. Can you help me put together a newscast? I need a newscast and I need a sportscast. Yeah. So he helped me basically produce things out, change scripts to kind of fit a woman's voice, or like my voice basically, because our sports anchors were guys. Yeah. And we literally, everyone left, and I went in there. He helped me record everything. Aww, yeah. He was like, I have had so much help. Yeah. And just people in my corner every step of the way. Peter has been, I still talk to Peter to this day. Aww, yeah, he's a very good friend. He lives in LA now, but he helped me set that up. I posted it on LinkedIn, and a couple weeks later, the news director at the station in Waco, he happened to be a black man, and he was really trying to work on the diversity in the newsroom. And so I interviewed with him, told him I wanted to do news and sports, but I wasn't sure. Yeah. And he was like, if you come here, we will allow you to do both.
Nice.
So
exactly what you were looking for. But here's the thing. You say, like, a lot of people have helped me along the way, which this is what Every Rich Girl is about, too. Because a lot of times when we're starting businesses as women, we're like, I gotta do this by myself, like I'm doing this by myself, I'm doing this by myself. But the best people that are in business know when to, have other people help or delegate tasks. And I would just like to say, too, all the people helped, but you also asked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge thing that we miss out with is like networking and just asking, like, hey, do you think you could help me with this? Like, do you think you could hold my hand? Whatever it is that you need. And a lot of times we don't ask for what we need. And through this whole journey, you've seen, even with basketball, you're like, you know what? This is where it's at. Like, this is where I'm going to get. You've seen an opportunity, taken the opportunity, but then also asked for help along the way. And again, I commend you for that because a lot of people will just not ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're missing out on so many doors.
It's so important. That's definitely something that I always, whenever people ask me for advice or anything, I'm like, ask for help. It's okay. I think sometimes there can be a little bit of like pride and ego, because I mean, I don't know if it's just basketball or where when I tell you, I am so not afraid
to just ask
or do anything. Like if they say no, okay, so then
who's next?
Exactly. So but no, asking for help and networking is huge for sure. I mean, even the things that I'm working on now, I think people take networking as like this stuffy professional kind of thing where it's like you have to go suited and booted and you're in a room shaking hands with all of these different people and like you don't really know what you have to offer, like whatever. But a lot of times it's just meeting people and staying connected. And for me, everyone that has helped me in my career, and a lot of people that I've met today, I just stay connected. It's not even that I need anything from them or that they need anything from me, but when I feel like I found a genuine connection with someone, I just like to foster that and keep it going.
Like, hey, how are you? It's okay, even if you don't need something from them, just asking them how they're doing, I think over time for me has been the most beneficial because then they'll ask me like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm working on this project, and they're like, oh, I can help.
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly. Like, ah! People will help you if they like you. And so like I said, like some of the things that I'm working on now, I've been able to tap on people that I've stayed connected with, and they're like a huge help.
For sure. So let's get into that. What are you into now? I kind of know what you're into, but tell us what you're into.
So I started my own digital marketing agency. It's called eSocial Co. And I tore my Achilles in July.
Yes.
And so I was working from home.
Yeah.
And I'm so fortunate because my company has been amazing. Like, they were like, yeah, you work from home, take all the time you need, and no money was cut. I didn't have to take any kind of like disability or short-term disability or anything like that. So that was super amazing. But I was at home working like half of my shift, not even. I was maybe working like 2 hours a day. And then I'm at home staring at the ceiling, crippled, like, what do I do? And so I decided I would start working on this business plan that I was kind of teetering around in my mind. And so, I still don't even have a website, girl, but I'm like busy.
It's okay.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's been really good. I'm really excited for the things that are happening. I think I've been helping small businesses grow online, and so helping them with their content creation, their social media management. A lot of people don't know where to start or how to even, make their phone settings to create high quality content.
Right.
So it's little things that I'm able to do to help businesses, look professional, even with their website designs and things like that. But now I'm kind of going in a newer direction, getting back into sports. And so now I'm getting into helping athletes with their branding. So when they're, getting drafted and they're working on their brand image and
let's talk about that. Because, again, come from Oklahoma, but our team, like, we won state several years in a row, our boys basketball team. And I just feel like when they get out into the world, like, they don't know how to speak to people, they don't know how to present themselves, they don't know how to dress, they don't know how to anything. And usually when they're so young in the game, they don't have anybody to like represent them or to like show them the way or show them what to say, tell them like how to answer. So is that the route that you're going
basically
into now?
So with my TV background, I obviously can do a lot of media training with them, but beyond that, outside of being an athlete, you know, they do have other passions and things that they like to do. It could be, you know, different causes, lower income, you know, helping lower income kids or students, like it could be anything. And so, but I know a lot of these athletes, they don't have time to actually put their passion into motion. And so that's kind of where I come in, is helping them get everything set up. And so all they have to do is just show up and like have a good time with the kids. Be the talent. Or be the, And so, it could also be, you know, setting them up with interviews, different things, because for a lot of these athletes, they are on a really big stage, and with that comes brand deals and endorsements. But a lot of them don't want to work with athletes who have a bad reputation. And so that's kind of what I want to get into, is helping shape and mold their brand and their personal identity, so that these brands will want to work with them.
That's beautiful, because then the more that they're getting brand deals, the more that they're able to grow just their own personal brands, like you said. So that's beautiful. But I love how, and this is always the thing too, like you started with one idea, right? You're like, I kind of want to do this. You get clients, you're doing it, but you're like, okay, I think I want to move into this, because sports is your background. Obviously, you're aware of it, you know media. So it's like, I can also help in this area, and this is what I want to do. It's like an evolving dream or vision per se. And I think a lot of us get stuck on the fact that, oh, like we thought of this thing, but like, you know, it didn't work out, or it's something that I don't like doing anymore, so I can't change it to something else. So I love that you're in a motion of like shifting it to what you want it to be, because it doesn't matter that we started out with one thing. It's like the world evolutionizes, so can your business, and you can move it into something else. So that's awesome. I actually can't wait to see just how that works out.
I'm excited. I'm definitely still gonna do, you know, work with small businesses, but as my business grows, I think it'll allow me to delegate, you know, that task to, okay, we'll have the small business side, and then we'll have the sports side, which is where I really want to put my focus. And I don't know, I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. I think that'll be very exciting. So as far as delegating tasks, and this is just me asking you on a personal level, are you, because how I've been able to delegate tasks is through like somebody interning with me or coming to help. How are you doing that process? Like, how are you balancing that? Because you're still doing your anchor, right? You're still, like, you do a lot. So I'm wondering how you're balancing, and it's okay if you're not balancing it. I have a lot of people that come on, they're like, I'm just kind of floating right now, figuring out, like, I don't feel balanced, and that's okay. So I'm just curious to know, how are you balancing it? Like, what are you doing to balance?
I am not really balancing it, honestly. I'm kind of just taking, you know, one day at a time. Thankfully, my full-time job, I don't have a grueling work schedule like I used to. I mean, I've worked to get to this point where I can kind of coast. And so it has allowed me the opportunity to do, you know, a side hustle and kind of try to make that a full-time thing. So I'm very blessed in that sense. A lot of people don't have that luxury to not have a full schedule and like work a full 8 hours and then go home, and like, you know, I don't have that constraint. So and then also my boyfriend, he's a huge part of my business. I mean, we both work together on a lot of things. He picked up a camera like a year ago and has really like delved deep into that, but he also his background is in e-commerce, so he builds websites. And so he is the developer of my business. He is building my clients' websites, and like any product photography. Because we both can shoot video, we can go in together and shoot a lot of the content, you know, whatever. So we both just work together. But that's kind of how I've been able to
kind of balance it.
Nice. He's been a huge help, and he works from home, so his schedule's a lot more flexible as well. So we you know, tag team on different tasks and stuff.
To be honest, a lot of the women that I have come on actually do have partners, and they always mention like, he's been a huge help, or he's been a part of it, just like making sure everything goes whatever, because it's nice just to have that other piece and be like, oh, maybe you should do this, or that's like the biggest thing that Trey is mine. He'll be like, maybe you should do it like this, and I'm like, are you sure, you know? And so just having that creative person too that's like, okay, we can do it like this, but we can tackle it together, and just like building upon that empire is beautiful. So one last part of the episode that I like to do is called a Rich Girl Tip, and it's just giving advice to somebody that maybe is in your shoes, that's younger or even older, that wants to do something that's similar to what you do, or anything in that manner. What would you tell them? Or I even like to think of it as like, if you were to tell your younger self something, what would you tell them?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Let me think about that.
Yeah, think about it.
So, I think for someone who is younger and wants to get into the TV business, one, it's really, really hard, but you can do it. It can be done. You have to have thick skin. Like I said before, you're going to meet a lot of not so nice people, but you have to have confidence in yourself that you can achieve anything. Don't be afraid of failing. You really just have to have a fearlessness going into TV. Now, if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, that's a completely different beast, because it's nonstop. The work does not stop. I literally have things on my plate all the time, every day. It's like, I have to ship this out, I have to go meet this person, you have to do your taxes, you have to save your receipts. I mean, there are so many little things, right? Yes. And so, but even with entrepreneurship, anyone who's interested in owning their own business, I would say 100% go for it and do it. It is so rewarding to have your own thing and make your own money and see where it's going and be able to pivot when you want. And I don't know, it's just, there's something so like, it's like my baby. Social has become my baby. And I cannot believe that there was a point in my life where I thought that I would retire doing TV. I think TV will always be a part of me. I think I'll always do media in some way, shape, or form. But it may not be the traditional local news way. But yeah, I think just be able to pivot and shift at any moment. You have to be adaptable.
Especially in entrepreneurship.
And just keep going. Keep going. Don't take no for an answer. And I think really the key is just always believing that you can do whatever you set your mind to.
And I like, just from your story in general, asking for help. I just feel like that's something for me in the last 2 years. I'm like, just ask, see what they say. You know what I'm saying? Just shoot out the message. And there's a lot of times, like, even doing these interviews or like, hosting people, I'm like, hey, it would be great. I think your story's awesome. I haven't heard the whole thing, but I think it would be great for people to hear. People are like, either ghost or they're like, no. I'll just ask somebody else. You know what I mean? And figure it out from there.
But you'll be surprised at how many people actually do say yes.
Oh, yes.
Or will.
It's surprising. Yes. Because they're like, oh, yeah, I would love to. Like, I've been wanting to do this, or I've been seeing you, like, do it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. Well, come on. So, I 100% agree. Just ask and see where it will get you. And really, that's to anybody. Because, like, a lot of times we see people and we're like, oh, they have, like, 200,000 followers on TikTok or Instagram. We're like, I'm not going to ask. But you'd really be surprised, like, what you can reach just by asking. So,
go for it.
Ask.
Yes.
Now, I have not done this with anybody else, but you've got a news voice.
Oh.
So I literally have to ask you to say something because
okay.
literally I listened to your video. I don't remember which video it was, but when I'm doing my research on you, just so I can make sure that this conversation flows. I'm like, let me just play this, and it was so nice. It's just like you like.
Wait, I have to see like what video it is. That is hilarious.
I'm gonna have to show you after.
Oh my gosh.
But when I seen it, I was like, because just talking to you regular, obviously, like.
People say that I still have a news voice.
You
and
do.
I'm like, but how? I don't know.
It's just so
That's so funny.
It's just so ready for the news. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but listening to that, I was like, oh yeah, she turns it on for real. Like she turns it up. And so now I'm like, what can we say that gives news for real? Like she's our news girl.
Okay. Well, let me see. It is, what time is it? It's 4:43. Okay.
Yes.
So, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Niyah Gonzalez, and this is the Rich Girl Podcast.
Oh my god, that was so good. Is that obviously school, right? Or no?
I
pick that up.
I think you just pick it up. Like it was actually never really a time where I had voice. There are definitely voice lessons that you can do.
Right.
But. Yeah, I think any kind of practice I got, I remember my professor just being like, speak from your belly. Like, take a deep breath and speak from your belly.
And girl, you be doing it. I love it. It was real good. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you driving all the way out here.
Yes, thank
just
you.
spending this time with me today. Yes, and I loved hearing your story. Like, just hearing the background from like where you came from and all the tenacity you have. And I look forward to like just seeing all the things that you have in store because I just think it'll be so great, especially just hearing your tenacity and your confidence. I know it'll be good. So thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And cut. That was perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I will send over like just the